Storytime, my toxic best friend outed me to the entire school. So one day, one of my best friends from a neighboring school decided to move to my school, and she was extremely upset because her best friend over there came out as bi. So I ended up using this as an opportunity to come out bi as well. And she was like, well, it's okay for you. I just got really close to her. We'll call the girl Becky because no one likes a Becky. And we can call her friend Heather. So fast forward to after the situation had calmed down, we decided to all go prom dress shopping. So Heather and I were talking and we really hit it off. And I think Becky legitimately forgot about our sexuality because we were all talking about how much we have in common, and we brought that up as well. She just looked at us and was like, oh, I forgot about that. And she just shrugged it off. But we continued to hang out for a few weeks. One of these weekends, we all went to church together, and the sermon was about how God accepts you no matter what your sexuality is. But of course, Becky turns around to us and says that Heather and I could never date because it would F everything up. Later that day, Heather actually ended up admitting that she had feelings for me, and this is when Becky lost it. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram.
My fiancé and I have been together for 6 years and engaged for 3. We decided to wait until I finished with my PhD program for us to get married. I picked a beautiful wedding hall that I was on the waiting list for 3 years to get into. My older sister also got engaged and is planning her wedding 6 months after mine. At our family dinner, she recently revealed that she's pregnant. My sister recently revealed that she was expecting and was going to push her wedding date forward. And she put me on the spot at the table and said, I was really hoping we could take your venue. I really cannot stress myself too much with planning a wedding while going to maternity classes. And I think it's so beautiful and it would really mean a lot to me. I guess everyone is expecting me to say, yes, anything for my little sister. And when I looked at her, I had said, I don't know. I have my heart really set on this venue. She started crying and she stormed out of the room. I tried defending myself, but my mom said, you waited 3 years. Would have killed you to wait a few more months? When has your sister ever asked you for something? My fiancé is super upset and wants to disinvite my sister. And my family is giving me the cold shoulder. So am I the asshole for not giving her the venue?
This boy lied about his age just to date me. Story time. So back when my cute self was a senior in high school, there was this new girl that came to our school. Long story short, me and her ended up becoming super close. I went to her house, spent the night. Her family loved me. I mean, why wouldn't they? Anyways, she had a brother. We're gonna call him Binky. Me and Binky got pretty close. Now I want you guys to keep in mind, Binky didn't go to my school because their parents were divorced. So the sister who I was friends with lived with her mom, and Binky lived with his dad who lived in another city. But sometimes Binky would go to his mom's house, which is how I met him. Now that we got that out of the way, as me and Binky were getting closer, one day he asked me, hey, how old are you? And I was like, oh, I just turned 17. How about you? He told me, oh, I'm 17 too, but my 18th birthday is coming up. After a while, me and him eventually started dating. Then one day, I ran into his cousin who happened to go to my school. The rest of this story is crazy.
So I can't really tell if it's romantic or not that my boyfriend put me up as the prize to a race without me knowing. To give some backstory, we were dating on and off for about a year and a half, and we'll just go ahead and call this man Brad. We met in health class and he was kind of an a-hole, but I honestly fell so hard for him. Well, around this time, he sold his old car and got a beautiful 2015 black Charger. And let me tell y'all, I would feel like such a baddie when he'd come pick me up. And when I moved an hour away, he would still come pick me up weekly and take me to nice hotels. Well, one day he was talking to me about how obsessed his friends are with me, which I thought was so strange, but he was like, yeah, I showed them your picture. They all think you are so fine. And I guess they all talked about how they wish they could have a chance with someone like me and blah, blah, blah. And that's when he decided to enter his fancy little car into a race. He asked me if I wanted to come see him perform, but we were in the dead of winter, so I was like, probably not. That's when he started begging me and told me that the prize was really important. So I decided to go. Follow my Insta.
Story time on how my parents sold me to my uncle. Okay, so boom, let's get straight into it. Ever since I was a kid, everyone would compliment me on how beautiful I was. Literally got complimented everywhere me and my family went. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, it's important. My parents didn't see me as their beautiful child. My parents seen me as dollar signs. I was literally up for sale and my parents were bidding on who would pay the most to marry me. My mom started teaching me how to cook and clean and how to keep a man happy. One day while my mom was getting me ready and all dolled up for dinner, I told my mom I didn't want to marry anyone, and she flat out told me I didn't have a choice. Well, little did I know that exact night my mom and I was having this conversation, my uncle was downstairs waiting on me. Like for part 2.
Part 2 of how I made my high school bully's dad my sugar daddy. I began chatting back and forth with Claire's dad through the dating app. He was twice my age, but he was handsome, and given the circumstances, I had to give this my best shot. He told me he was looking for a beautiful girl to spoil and spend time with, and made it very clear that he was interested in me. After talking for a few weeks, we set up our first date, which was dinner at a nice restaurant, followed by shopping. I knew this man had money because I remember Claire being one of the rich girls at school, and I was right. He took me to the Louis store and let me pick out any bag I wanted. We kept talking and it was working out really nicely for me. He would send me money every week for makeup, to get my nails and hair done, or for whatever else I needed in between dates. One week he said he couldn't go on our usual Saturday night outing because his daughter was coming over for dinner. I was not going to waste this opportunity. I told him how much I was looking forward to seeing him and asked if I could join them. He was hesitant at first, but I eventually talked him into it. I'll never forget the look on Claire's face when I walked in and kissed her dad. I showed Claire the new purse that her dad had bought me and bragged about how well he's always treating me. She was fuming and stormed out shortly after. To this day, he's still my sugar daddy and Claire hates everything about it. I have feelings for my coworker, but I'm engaged. I work in the medical field in a busy hospital. It feels like we've been short-staffed forever and it never seems to improve. This leads to us having to work double shifts almost daily. The money's great, but I'm rarely ever home. Sometimes we even sleep at the hospital and don't go home for days at a time. The people I work with are amazing and almost like family. At the moment, I see them more than my actual family. We all look out for each other and we're super close. But some of us might be a little too close. There's this guy I work with named Jason that I've developed feelings for. When you're with someone almost 16 hours a day, I guess it's bound to happen. The problem is that I'm already engaged to my fiance at home. It started out innocent at first. Casual, light flirting here and there, so subtle at times I didn't even think anything of it. One of those situations where you start out as friends, but things keep progressing. I knew my relationship was in jeopardy when Jason and I started texting when we weren't working. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't stop the conversations. If I'm being honest, at times I would be the one to text first and take the conversation away from the friend zone. I haven't talked to my fiance about it and I'm scared to death too. I still love him and feel terrible that I have feelings for someone else, and I haven't even gotten to the worst part of it all.
Can you solve this mystery? This is a story about two young girls, Mandy and Melissa, who were identical twins. But one day they were kidnapped by an unknown man. No one knew who the kidnapper was, but something isn't adding up here. All the clues to what really happened are hidden in what I'm about to say. So Mandy and Melissa were born to a very rich family. They lived in a large mansion with their father and older brother. Everyone was jealous of these girls because their father loved them so much and gave them everything that they wanted and all of his attention. But one tragic night, the girls were taken. When they woke up, they were blindfolded and tied to chairs so they couldn't see a thing. They were terrified. Suddenly, Mandy heard a high-pitched voice whispering in her ear. It was the kidnappers. He said, "I've contacted your parents and I'm demanding $1 million ransom. If you try to escape, I will kill Melissa." Then Melissa heard the same voice whisper in her ear. He said, "I contacted your parents and I'm demanding $1 million ransom. If you try to escape, I will kill Mandy." So who kidnapped the twin girls and why did they do it? Can you solve this mystery?
So I literally thought people were joking when they were talking about stepsisters getting with their stepbrothers. Turns out it's not a joke, and I just found out that my boyfriend cheated on me with his stepsister. When I was a freshman in high school, I got into a lot of trouble and ended up getting my phone taken away for 6 months and had no social media for a year. My parents literally didn't allow me to have Snapchat until the summer before my senior year. But I was allowed to have an Instagram, so the moment that I was allowed to have my socials back, I made an update on my story. And within a few hours, a boy that I had been talking to before I got my phone taken away swiped up. We started messaging, talking again, hitting it off all over again. And even though he lived about 2.5 hours away, within a week we started dating. I actually had a few other friends that were dating guys in the same town, so I was like, if they can, so can I. After dating him for a few months, I decided to invite him over to my dad so that they could meet. Both my dad and him hit it right off the bat. Chef's kiss. Also, we can call this guy Darren. I noticed that he was super weird with his phone and he would put it in his pocket anytime I was near. I asked him what that was about and he was like, well, I just don't want to be on my phone. It seems rude. It seemed like a logical response, so I brushed it off. But the next day, a girl messaged me saying that she was dating Darren. Okay, so on my FYP lately, I've been seeing so many videos of like, watch my husband fall out of love with me, which is exactly what I watched happen whenever I went through my pregnancy with my boyfriend's child. So in December of 2019, I found out that I was pregnant and I was so excited. And my boyfriend was overjoyed. We literally had one of the best relationships during this time. But once COVID hit in 2020, I ended up getting laid off of work. He continued to work, but I felt like it was pointless for me to find another job just because I was about to have a baby and raise a kid. And in April, we get to find out the gender, and guess what? It was a boy. I was extremely happy, but then I just started to notice that he stopped caring. Like, I would be like, hey, the baby is kicking, and he would just be like, okay. Completely monotone, completely blank face. Then June comes around and I ended up gifting him an iPhone 11 Pro Max. Since it was under my name, I had access to see who could text and call him. And I know a lot of his family's numbers, including cousins and aunts, but there was one number that I didn't recognize that stood out the most. And the messages between him and this number would not stop until 3 a.m., which is when he would go to sleep. So I decided to go up and ask him who is more important than me and his son. Why does the entirety of the Denver International Airport have barbed wire facing inwards? Almost like a prison, it's trying to keep something in. The Denver International Airport is home to so many conspiracy theories. I went there several times within my own traveling, and whether you believe the conspiracy theories or not, it is so hard to argue that the entire airport is not suspicious. DIA was built as a replacement to the Stapleton Airport, even though nothing was wrong with the airport before. It was supposed to be done in 1993, but it didn't end until 1995, the final budget being $4.8 billion. And if you guys don't know this, that exceeds normal airport price. And to put it into even more perspective, this airport and its grounds are bigger than Manhattan. So what was the purpose of making it so big and expensive? The builders for the DIA worked under multiple contractors, so it's rumored that no one knows the true scope of this project. But maybe the architects wanted it this way. It's filled with strange markings, underground tunnels, and apocalyptic themes.